Hey everybody, it's Matt from Eastwood. We're here at another Facebook Live tech session. Today I'm going to be talking about, turn the welder off. We're going to talk about how to make really nice spot welds or replicate spot welds on your vehicle when you're doing work on your car. So before we even start, I want you guys to make sure that you're sharing and commenting and everything along the way. We got Randy sitting over here. You've seen a lot of our videos as well. Randy's going to be answering questions.
Them back to Matt, so he'll answer them and maybe even do some demonstrations based on your questions live on the air. And we got some cool giveaways we're going to give away at the end of the day. So if you're watching this today on July 20th, some weld through primer, we're going to give away Spot Weld, the Spot Weld Kit. So if you want a chance to win those, all you got to do is share, and also for a chance to win the Spot Weld Kit, post in the comment which welder you have. Like you can write 135 70 Nova or whatever it is, and that's all it takes, and you'll be entered to win. So share or post with, just give us a little quick comment. So I guess we'll throw it back to Matt.
Cool, thanks Randy. So today what we're talking about again is doing what most people call a spot weld. A true spot weld is actually, when done at the factory on your car, is a resistance spot weld, where it's generally a big tool that has two prongs that come together, smash the panel together, and it zaps it. There's no like MIG weld or anything like that. From a technical standpoint, what you're doing on your vehicle is probably not a spot weld. You're doing like a rosette or a plug weld if you're using a MIG welder. But for all purposes, what we're going today, I'm going to interchange those terms so everybody's aware. So where is a spot weld used on your vehicle? Most commonly, you're going to use your spot weld. We're going to use Cody's Camaro here as a sample. Along the front here, anywhere the two panels are butted together tight is one of the most complicated when you're making new rockers or putting four pans in your car. Guys, they get worried about how their spot weld or the rosette weld or plug weld looks, so they start grinding the metal, and that's not good. You're grinding away your weld. The little bit that you already have, you're grinding away, and it's weakening the metal or your weld. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do or replicate spot welding. I have a couple samples I did here real quick, and then we're going to dial in the machine, show you how to do it with a MIG welder, give you a couple tips along the way, just so you guys can get yours looking as good as they should. So the first way you can do it is, like I mentioned, where if you had from the factory a traditional resistance style spot welder where it would go in and zap it. They're pretty expensive, they're hard to find, or they are really expensive, and most people at home, you're not going to have one of those. Probably the next closest thing you're going to have, and I'm going to get close in here for Joe to hopefully see, is I did these ones here with a TIG weld. So this is the closest thing I would say to getting like a resistance spot weld. So these two in here I did with a TIG welder. I butted the material together to two pieces, clamped them tightly, and then I put the TIG torch directly over it, whacked on the pedal, went pretty hot and fast, and it zapped the two of them together. So as you can see on the back side here, that's our penetration. So that's about the closest thing you're going to get. It takes a little bit of skill with the TIG welder. You have to be very comfortable with being able to see a puddle and define when it's about to blow through and when it's perfect. So that's one of the methods you can do, is clamping the material together. Now you can do that same thing with a MIG welder, but you have to have a MIG welder that is strong enough to do that really fast. So our MIG 175, our MIG 135 can do it, but you have to have it cranked all the way up, and you have to really dial in your settings. It's kind of difficult. Probably the easiest and most user-friendly way to do it is to drill a hole in the top piece here, like I've done. This is a piece we're going to set the machine up on. So you're going to drill a hole through the top piece, and then you're going to clamp it together. And when you weld, you're going to be welding to the base material and basically filling up that hole on the top there. So that's the way that I'm going to be showing you guys today. That's probably the most common and easiest way to learn. What you do not want it to look like, and I tried to do a couple here, that are sitting real high, or what I like to call proud on the metal, where they're domed up and you have to grind them. That one's not too bad. I did another one here, but it actually fell off because there wasn't any penetration. But you don't want them looking like that. So I'm going to help you guys dial in the machine and show you some technique here. And then what we're going to finally do at the end is I made up a little piece here that looks like a factory, kind of like the factory rocker, but I just boxed it in. And then we're going to do a bunch along the edge here and show you guys the process for doing that. So we have our holes drilled. What we suggest generally, or the standard kind of is using a 3/16 drill bit to drill your pilot hole in the top panel. We do sell a Spot Weld kit that comes with these drill bits, but we sell some nice ones. They're double-ended and all that jazz. So you drill your 3/16 hole in the top layer, and then you're going to be welding that in here. Now the one thing that a lot of people make a mistake with is they go on their machine, and our machine is good. A lot of companies offer this, where there's a chart somewhere on the machine or in your booklet that comes with it. What this setting, if it's correct or not. So everything from the wiring in your garage, how good it is, to the breaker, to the extension cord you're using that runs from the wall. So I'm using the MiG 135. It's a 110 unit that we sell. And these settings here, they were made with no extension cord, no extra added drops that's going to drop the power of the machine. So even though this machine is telling me on 20 gauge with 025 wires F4, when I go to weld with that, that may not be the case. It may be too cold because we're getting an amperage drop for the machine by the time it gets to your actual MIG gun. So keep that in mind. I'm going to set this up from starting with here, and we're going to go from there. Start from the setting, and then we'll go up to where it's supposed to be. So let's set our machine up here on this test panel I made before we go to our nice finished piece here. And I'm going to show you pour all the way to basically where it should be, and you're going to need to listen, and that's the important thing. So let's turn our machine on here. We already got our gas on. Now I have my ground. Question I get sometimes when we do welding videos or live demos or even classes. My ground here is just set right on the table. Why is that? Well, we have a nice clean welding table or work table here that we made that it's going to transfer the ground through it to my piece because it's bare metal. So if you're doing something that's bare metal, it's okay to just ground it right on the table or on the car. It doesn't have to be right on the part you're welding, but you got to make sure everything's clean. So I'm doing that so it stays out of the way, just in case anybody's curious. So let's start off with the machine being way too cold, or turned down here. And I'm going to do a spot weld or a rosette weld and show you guys. Almost forgot. The MIG pliers. Whenever you're doing spot welds, rosette welds, plug welds, it's good to clip the wire in between each one if you can, because it puts a little ball or BB on the end there that can actually change your next weld because there's extra material that you got to burn off, so you're not going to get that nice clean weld each time. So I got the machine kind of turned down a little low, and we're going to let you guys hear what it sounds like. So this is what I see a lot of times when we're seeing people do rosette or spot welds, and hopefully we can get a shot of it. I know it's tough here, but we got a little mound or ball on top of there. With doing these spot welds, or if you're doing rosette welds, trying to replicate spot welds, you want it to be as flat as possible. You want it to penetrate both material. You want it to be as flat as possible. That right there, well, that's not really doing much. It looks a little bit like bird crap. So I don't want that. If we try to put a screwdriver between there, it's going to end up splitting really easily. So we're just trying to get the right angle here so everybody can see. But you can see how high that's sitting on top of there. it didn't really penetrate very much, and I wouldn't feel comfortable welding a panel together like that. So let's turn the machine up just a little bit more, and then listen for the sound. You heard it was spitting and sputtering a little bit. Now I can overcome, because I've been doing this for a while, I can overcome an incorrect welder setting a little bit by just changing how I move the torch. But when it's that low, there's not much you can do no matter how good of a welder you are. So let's do the one next to it so we can get it a little flatter. So what I do is a lot of times I lay my torch or my MIG gun on the side of the nozzle like this so I can help myself see what's going on, and then I tilt it up till the wire is almost touching and then hit the trigger. Watch for that puddle to form, and what I do is I look for a puddle to form and fill up the hole in the piece. As soon as I can't see the drilled hole in the panel, I let off the trigger. As soon as I see that, I let off the trigger. And that just split second it takes to go from your brain to your finger, that's usually enough on it to be like that. So, like I said, as soon as you see it, so that was our first one. Turn the welder up just slightly, a little bit. And now we're at this one here. So it's fairly flat. Still sitting a little bit above, but what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get it so it's almost like a resistance spot weld. I want it to get it real close. So what I'm going to do is turn the machine up even a little more. Now our machine said, I think it was F4 was what it said. So we're going to go to F4. What we have on here. Now I have an extension cord running from the welder all the way back to a wall outlet. So ideally, or not ideally, in theory, that's going to drop the power that's going to it. What I'm using here, and what I can show you, you see this panel starting to split apart here. So this is what you do not want to have happen. So the panel split apart, and I actually did a couple welds here to kind of show where the panel's split apart, but it's welded together. You want to try and keep away from that when you're doing resistance, or when you're trying to replicate resistance welds, or you're just when you're doing Rosette or spot welds. You want to keep the panels as tight together as you can. So they are welded together. I filled up the gap, but now we got some air gap in between that panel. That's not going to be as strong as it should be, and depending on what it is, you're going to have metal that's kind of flopping around. So because of that, we're going to use these pliers that we came out with, the Eastwood Spot Weld Pliers. What's really awesome about these, they work like vice grips, but they have a little cutout here where you can get your MIG nozzle into the panel, or on top of your hole that you have drilled, so you can weld. Cool. So again, if you guys have any questions at all that you want to ask about MIG welding in general, whether it's spot welding or Rosette welding, or it's just a welder question you have, a problem you're having when you're MIG welding, myself or Randy would be happy to answer it, and hopefully share your entered to win. We're giving away some self-etching weld-through primer and also some spot welding kits. And if you have an Eastwood welder, we want you to comment in the comment sections with which Eastwood welder that you have and what your project car is, or project in the Chevy 69, geez, if you have a 69 Chevy Camaro, wow, put that in the comments with MIG 135. You might give something away. Hopefully you don't stumble as bad as I did. I'm better at welding apparently. So we're going to clamp this panel back together, and we're going to show you how to weld it. So I got it clamped together. I'm going to go up a little further. I'm actually jump it up quite a bit. So the machine, the setting says F4. What I'm going to do is actually turn it up to, in between G, I'm going to turn it up to 7. All right, let's go in between 6 and 7. What I like to do to get some really flat spot welds or Rosette welds, I like to actually turn the machine up a little higher in power than what the settings are, or even what you would normally weld at. That's because I want to get in there, use these pliers. Again, the cool thing is get these pliers in, and I usually like to rest them on the edge of the pliers, and then I'm going to turn my MIG gun up like this, and I might do a little circle rotation, or if you can get it at the right angle, you can hit it. It'll just fill up the gap, and you're good to go. But you may have to just manipulate the puddle just a little bit. I mean, this is a split second. You just got to do a little circle. As soon as you see it fill up, let off. So I'm going to use these pliers here to help me rest the edge there so I can see. Put my helmet down. That's a pretty good one. So I just, like I said, as soon as I saw that the puddle had filled up the hole that we drilled, let off the trigger. Take these off here. So you can see the panels clamped together real nice. So we use those pliers there. You can see over in here it's not clamped so nice. And then that's the one I just did right there. Nice and flat. That requires no grinding whatsoever. I'm trying to just get it to the right angle so he can see that. I want everybody to be able to see that. So that's nice and flat there. I don't know if I have something that's kind of a straight edge here, but you can see that's pretty much flat with the panel there. It's not like some of these other ones where we got some rocking on it. This one's basically flat. Just a tiny bit of movement, but that's what you want. So I have the machine turned up almost what sometimes I tell people is uncomfortably high where you're setting the machine at, but it's all in that technique. As soon as you see the puddle fill up and you do that little circle with your hand, let off immediately and it'll be just right. So now that we got a couple of them done there and the machine's dialed in, we're going to move over and show you on an actual run and see kind of the process if you were doing it on the car. So what I've done, I'll show you guys. So I bent up this piece here. Move it so you can see it over here. Basically kind of mimicking a rocker panel so that it just goes down to create that. But that would probably be your floor pan originally. You'd have it. You use these on pinch weld. You do it once on a car and that's it. I use these suckers all the time to clamp two panels together on the edge. They have incredible clamping force. I've held panels that are, a big panel that's real heavy with like two of these clamps. I couldn't believe it, and they don't slide around. But this is what we offer, but it's a really nice tool. You can clamp it down with the thumb screw real tight. So I've already got one clamped here to keep everything tight. And then I'm going to take the other one here and I'll clamp it together. Now what you might see on the inside is I have it all sprayed with our self-etching weld through primer. So it's not normal etching primer, it's self-etching weld through. So this combines those two products and makes one awesome product. So the great thing about that is, like it sounds like, you can actually weld right through that primer and it doesn't cause a problem. It does cause a tiny bit more spatter when you're welding through it. So what I like to do, and I'm going to clamp this together and then I'll show you guys, hopefully close up you can see it. Calling the wife or your kids to help you line a panel up all the time. So I got the ends of these clamped together nice and tight with these two. Got a little gap in the middle, but we're going to fix that with our spot weld pliers. As we work along, we're going to grab that and go and clamp each one and work our way across. So, but what I wanted to show you guys, when I drill, a couple things I do. Actually, I'll go backwards. So once you bent your edge on your panel here, so you have, on this one I believe it was about 1 inch is what I measured on the Camaro. So, and you want to run your welds, you want them to be, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit OCD, but you want to try and get them all basically in the middle and about in line. So what I do is I measure, about halfway across like this. I take a pair of dividers so I didn't measure this right now. That's pretty close to my holes. But I'll take my dividers, run it along the edge here, and I'll scribe a line. That's going to be basically the center of each of my holes. Then from there, figure out whatever your distance is. I think on this Camaro, when I measured it, was like 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 spacing between the spot welds. So I again took my dividers here, and with a Sharpie, I just eyeballed them each up, put a little Sharpie mark where the center of each hole was going to be, and then I took our automatic center punch. We have a little sheet metal layout kit that a bunch of these come in that are pretty handy. Take that, push it down. It's going to leave a little center punch mark, and then I can drill my holes. Then when you drill your holes, as long as your hand isn't too crooked or the bit doesn't walk on you, which it shouldn't because you center punched it, you should be able to drill these holes, and they'll all be fairly spaced about the same. And you probably know more than I do, and you will be able to figure that out on your own. But if you're a guy in your garage doing a restoration, that's a cool little trick you can do to try to keep them the same. Scribe that line with the dividers, and then you can go along and find the center of each of these. So what I do is I drill this top panel. I'm going to try and get in close so Joe can see, but in here you could see after I drill my hole in the top, what I do is I come back with the drill bit and I let it touch in the center there on our bottom panel just to take a little bit of the primer away. Some like metallic properties in it that helps it conduct and start a weld, but it's not as good as bare metal. So what I like to do is just give it a little jump start so the center of that wire touches just that little spot I hit with the drill bit, and it'll start welding right away. It'll burn that little bit of primer away, it'll fill it up, and everything will be great. That's just a little tip I do. It might be neurotic, but I don't know. I think it works, so whatever. So we'll get that set up. Any questions?
We actually do have a question. Let me pull it up. It is, give me 1 second. We got a lot of comments.
That's good.
A lot of people loving the Eastwood welders.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad everybody likes the welder.
Hank would like to know, what about filling a hole on a vertical surface? Is it the same as you're doing now on a horizontal surface?
So what Hank asked is if the process is any different if it's on a vertical surface. So like on this, a good spot that comes to mind immediately for me is in a door jamb. Same kind of thing. You got a pinch weld there. You're going to have to weld on the vertical surface. Really, it's not much different. I should go back. If you were welding just a normal puddle, so if we were welding like heavier metal and we were running a puddle, yes, completely different. Not completely different, but different technique for welding. For what we're doing here, for doing plug welds or Rosette Welds to mimic a resistant spot weld, the process isn't really much different. You're only on the trigger for a couple seconds. When you're doing something where you're welding a puddle, it's a little bit different because you got gravity fighting you, and the metal's much. The puddle is larger and hotter, so you're going to be fighting gravity a little bit, and the technique's going to be different. For this, pretty much the same. So if this panel was up like this, it's not going to be any different. We're going to put your clamps in just like this, clamp it together, put our welder in from here, and zap it. Not really any different. If anything, I'd rather weld in a door jamb like that on a vertical surface than laying on my back doing a rocker any day. So the short answer is it's basically the same. You're on the trigger for such a short period of time, it's not really much different. The key is just to get yourself comfortable. Make sure you're in a good angle, you can see well. I a lot of times put one of our that works really well. I'll put that thing and really see these because you only get one chance. If you miss, you're out of luck. Then you got to grind it out where you just got to look towards the end and work our way over. So another method as well. So I put my gloves back on, of course, and the helmet. For this type of welding, I would definitely suggest, if it isn't obvious, an auto dim helmet. You need to kind of eyeball where the end of your wire is on your MIG gun. How long I lay my... So So I got to get it so I can see here. So the problem there is, I had a little spot that I kind of, just a little corner there. It filled it up completely. And it's pretty flat, but there's a little corner there right when I was leaning on the edge of those pliers. It kind of slipped a little bit. That's one of the downsides of doing what I would call freehand. But you can see on the back side here, got a nice penetration because we got the panel clamp. I'm going to actually turn the welder up just a hair. Just a little bit. So on our MIG welder, you can adjust it anywhere you want. So it's not just letters, or numbers 1, 2, 3. I can go like G and 3/4 to get it dialed in just how I want. So I want it just a tiny bit hotter. So I went up maybe, I don't know, 1/8 of a setting or 1/4 of a setting. Not much at all, but it seemed like it needed to be a little hotter. You can see. What's that? Hank. We're going to show for Hank how to try to do it like this. Let's do another one. So what's happening here, and this is common, exactly what I'm doing. So you can see you can't get in there right, as well as if it comes with this nozzle here. So all you do is you thread off your old nozzle, like I just did. You thread this little guy on here, like so. And I'm going to turn him so he's at the right spot. So what that does, I'll try and take this out here so you guys can see before I start welding again. So what that allows you to do, you can go like this, and you can put your MIG gun in right against those pliers. What we did is we designed these pliers actually for this. What you do is just get your angle right, hit the trigger, angle there, so you guys can see. So that's, and you're good to go. So now I don't have to worry about the sight thing as much. I can just get this lined up right here, straight over top, so you can do your little weld. Let's move on to the next one. Now, if you fill your weld up, to fill that little corner in, if you didn't get any penetration on the backside, so if you're not seeing anything on the backside, any little pinhole, I'd let you slide. I won't tell anybody, as long as you don't tell anybody that I did it. What I should do is put the lights behind me so you can see what the heck I'm doing. Putting it over top, try and just get them just right. Like so. Do we have any, while I'm moving along here, we got any other questions at all?
Yes. Yes, we actually do have some more questions.
Cool.
Gary H. would like to know, What do you do when you can't get any of those clamps onto the sheet metal?
H is asking what you can do if you can't get any of these clamps that I'm using here today. What do you do? What's the other instance that you can do? We have a tool that's called Clecos that we sell. It comes from the aviation industry. Oh, we might have some sitting here. So what these little guys are, so when you're doing 3/16 holes like this, which is what I suggest when you're trying to replicate spot welds, is the 3/16. So you use the 3/16 Clecos, and you could drill all the way through the panel, put these Clecos in. The only downside to that is, and so if you're in a tight area where you got to use the Clecos, you're gonna have to drill a hole all the way through both pieces of metal, and then you have to fill that. So you may have to use, if you're using a MIG weld or something, you may have to use a copper backer to put behind the hole so you can weld and fill it up.
Like these right here?
Yep. Yeah. Which you should keep on your cart, just like we do now. So what you'd have to do is drill a hole. We got a bunch of different shapes that they come in. But what you have to do is we'd have to drill our hole all the way through this piece. And you use your Cleco, which when you use the pliers, it actually grabs and pulls the two panels together. And you're going to have a hole on this back side here, so it's a little more difficult to fill. So you can use a copper backer to hold on the back side. You zap the front side, keep moving along. So that's one way you can do it. Depending on what the panel is, if you don't want to drill a hole through, I've gotten pretty creative and used everything from ratchet straps to pieces stuck up against that you can stick two things together. Whatever it takes to get done, but Clecos are the easiest deal, but if it's something where you don't want to have to drill through both pieces, you're going to have to get creative. But this is what I use 90% of the time, is Clecos to set up panels. They're really handy. If you go to our website and just search Clecos, C-L-E-C-O-S, we got a product page there. There's a couple little videos to actually show you how it works, how they work. It's pretty neat how it comes out and grabs the clamps. You can pretty much use on.
For welding the sheet metal, you have them set at right now.
Okay, Reginald's asking what we have the machine set for currently. So I have the machine, like I said, it was F4 was what the standard setting was that we have on there. We got an extension cord on here. I had to turn the machine up. So I have it at H6 or H6.5 right now is where I have it set at. Seems pretty good, but you're gonna have to play with it a little bit. The piece that we welded without the self-etching weld through welds a little different than the piece with it. So really when setting up the panel, we should probably do it sprayed self-etch on both of these. But that got us pretty darn close, and now I'm working my way along. But I'm kind of dialing it in as I here. So you can see let off the trigger. Now it does leave a little bit with the self-etching weld through. Leaves a little bit of black marks on here, but those just wipe off. I mean, I'm wearing gloves, so it's not too bad. They'll just wipe off. That's not a big deal. So we'll do our next one here. But you can see it's a lot quicker and easier using this. Just lock it in real quick, clamp everything tight, and move across. I really suggest this if you're doing like a rocker or something that has a ton of spot welds that you need to go through and do. You can just go boom, boom, boom and move across these. If you're not jabbering away like I am, you can get this job done pretty quick. So now we're in. Make this a little bit tighter. So again, let's get this lined up just like this so you're happy with it. Then you can put your helmet down. So I'm pretty much centered over it. That off. So that quick, that easy, works for you. See that one there? You probably heard I stayed on just a hair longer. Here's what happens. That's the part that takes a little bit of time to get used to. Trying to get this lined up here so you guys can see. That last one, you might have heard I stayed on. I mean, it was literally a split second between me thinking and letting off the trigger and not, between these other ones where you can see the penetration. So now you can see these ones, a little bit of penetration. You know, you can see the circle where we penetrated through, and then that one I stayed on. I mean, that was a split second longer, and we got a little blow through there. But, I mean, if you're doing a rocker or something like that, not a big deal. As long as it's flat on the top side here, it's not too bad. I had a couple in the beginning here which weren't correct, which I had to get my settings just right, that were a little ugly there. But it's all together. You can see that's what you want your seam to look like. See how everything's nice and tight, so if that's your pinch weld or around your door frame, that's how you want it to be, nice and tight together like that. If you have waves or, you know, spray the heck out of it on the inside, that'll protect everything. It was easy enough for me because I made this out of one piece so I could spray the whole inside. But if you're welding on a car, you're not going to be able to do that, so you got to use the internal frame coating. So that's showing you guys the basics to laying the spot welds. Hopefully you saw the advantage of using the Spot Weld Kit. It does save a lot of time. It's real quick to switch back, so you know, if I'm ready to go back and weld something else on the car, thread this guy on, ready to use for next time. Pretty easy. Throw it on the bottom of your cart. This piece here will pretty much, I don't want to say last forever, but we'll the basics for laying nice spot welds on a panel. Hopefully it helped you guys. Do you got any other questions along the way? Are we pretty good?
I think we're pretty good.
All right, cool. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget, if you're watching this video now or if you're watching it later on YouTube, our Eastwood channel is Eastwood Co. is the username, or on Facebook, leave us a comment. We want to know what you guys want to see for tech videos. If you want to see a particular product in use, just let us know. Give us a comment on the video here or on YouTube. We monitor them, and we will definitely try and do a video for you guys to let you see how our products work and hopefully teach you something along the way. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.